We are unmuting now, so you're ready to get started. So it is 5:31 and calling the meeting to order. So starting with the roll call, go around the room. Dean, do you want to start us up?
Dean Herford.
Michelle Ellis.
Steve Mondero.
And Sarah Selvin, staff. All right, next item up is public wishing to speak on non-agenda items. And I don't see any public here or online. So moving to the next item, which is the adoption of the minutes from January 9th and March 13th of 2025.
About 5 minutes to cruise through these a little further. if you want,
Okay,
please.
absolutely.
Thursday the 9th first.
I think that when the email went out, maybe there was one thing that there was inconsistency, but the printed minutes that I handed out are correct.
Okay, so it should be January 9th. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
I don't want to go to prison that does it wrong.
Keep everything in order. What is CDD?
Oh, Community Development Director.
Okay, all right. I figured it was something.
Yeah.
I figured it was,
New position. New acronym.
Although it looks like, yeah, I could see that being confusing too, because under my name, it says Planning Manager under staff, but the up at the beginning where it talks about members.
so maybe. Suggestion, maybe just changing your title?
Yes. Take that. Everyone's finishing this. I'm just reviewing. I'm just gonna grab one paper from upstairs.
Okay. Okay.
I messed up for you guys, but it seems like I was here when we voted for you guys to be president and co-chair,
That's good.
the way I remember it.
Yeah.
But over here, it's saying that I was absent when,
But that's the one we did in January.
But did we have another,
and not that it really matters to me.
because we deferred the vote in
In
January
January.
and then we didn't have a meeting in February.
So maybe they,
Committee chair, yeah, you made the motion, I seconded it. It was held in advance.
Okay.
So that was January meeting. It was held in advance until the February meeting, which we didn't have until March.
And then you weren't at the March.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. You were.
So not for the technical.
Yeah,
The official.
but for the record, we missed you.
But anticipate you were having.
Yeah, that's how
We're
I
enjoying.
was sincere with my wife when she got. When she listened.
Well, we anticipate you were having more fun somewhere.
You know, I think that we're probably on the record, but whatever, we're waiting, right? So over on the last section conversation.
Okay,
Officially now.
Okay. All right.
all right.
All right,
Ready with the
fantastic.
minutes?
Chair entertain a motion for approval of the minutes. I will do so.
I motion to approve the minutes for January 9th and March 13th.
I'll second.
All right, discussion, question.
Aye.
Oh, okay.
It
No,
was
no
what?
discussion, no.
No.
So the only one we noted where it was the
Sure.
dates thing,
Okay.
but yeah, okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All opposed? Nope, approved. All right, next up, I feel like are some updates and discussion
Yeah, yes.
around a couple different things.
Yes.
Starting with urban renewal.
Yes. And we will see, I had originally thought that, Counselor Todd would be here to talk some more with the committee about the advisory committee work plan for this coming fiscal year. But I don't think he's able to make it. I thought he might be joining on Zoom, but, I don't think so. So I'll share the information that I have, about that when we get to that point. So let's see, I wanted to, let you all know that we have received one completed grant application for, someone who actually has a business on Village Street currently. She has a photography studio on Village Street called Crescent Studios. And she has leased the big corner space at the Market Village Apartments, which is the clock tower building. So the big corner space, like right under the clock tower. And she has applied for a grant to do tenant improvements to that space for her studio. And also she has a makeup artist who also operates as part of her business, but would also be, I think, doing business separately. So we are kind of finishing our staff review of that grant application and planning to take it to City Council, the Urban Renewal Agency Board for their approval on May 21st. And then the space that is immediately next to that one on the north side, so on Village Street. We have somebody working on putting together a grant application for that space, for an 8 to 10 station salon. And they're hoping to also get their application turned in time for the Urban Renewal Agency to review it on May 21st. So that is good that we're getting some additional interest and some of those spaces filled up in that building in Fairview Village.
How many square feet is it, approximately, you know?
You know, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, they're decent sized spaces.
10 chairs.
Yeah. And, you know, one of those spaces could have been divided into two, the one on Village Street, but they're planning to use the whole thing. Yeah, and so I think that we've in the last fiscal year, I guess, 2024 through 2025, we've had a lot of interest and a lot of grant applications awarded. So that's great. And for the next fiscal year, we have budgeted, I guess this kind of gets right into the next section here. We have budgeted $300,000 for grants. And the idea was that there was potentially one applicant who might need the grant for something that wasn't a tenant improvement, but would be sort of an infrastructure grant related to a development. And so that could necessitate like the higher end of the grant award. We'll see if that moves forward in the next year to apply for that. But certainly there would be at least $200,000 available for additional grants next year.
The only one that's gone so far is at the Thai food place. That's the only one that's
Okay,
gone to fruition.
well, let's see, this last year, the Thai food restaurant, Lolo's Pizza,
Okay,
and then Stomping Grounds is working on their model, they got a grant as well. And then Bridge City Hobbies, which is on Village Street, if you saw the little chalkboard A-board sign, that game store, they also got a grant and that opened, so that's
Good.
4 in the last year.
Good.
Yeah, and yeah, so that's exciting. And, you know, with the exception of Stomping Grounds, it was all to new businesses opening in Fairview. And, you know, with the next 2 that are coming up, one would be a new business coming to Fairview, the salon, and then the other one would just be an expansion.
still too bad that we didn't land a daycare. Cause I think that's a perfect
Yes,
progression to the city, you know.
I agree. Mhm.
An easy place for people to,
to-
you know, kind of
yeah.
drop off on the way into town or.
Yes,
So,
yes. And I haven't talked with the real estate broker for the building where the daycare was gonna go in for a little while. I know that they had been trying to find another daycare provider for that space, and we're, I think, having a hard time getting people interested. I think they were kind of talking with some people who had existing childcare facilities in the metro area. And I think they were just having a hard time getting people interested in coming this far east, was the feedback I had received.
It seemed to me like another thing that was tough was that there's no, what would say, park or green space in a lot of these commercial things.
Yeah.
Where we take little kids out and play around, so.
Right, yes, that is something else I've heard from folks, that they want like private open space. Whereas here, they would have to walk down to the park. Mhm. But that's not, you know, it's not unheard of.
Still conducive.
Mhm, exactly, yeah.
Is the grant funding allocated for a specific fiscal year? Is it, if it does it carry over to the next if it isn't all used, or does it work?
So it comes out of the urban renewal budget, so, I mean, we have it budgeted. I mean, the urban renewal budget is sort of available. This year, it will depend, I think, on the grant awards, if we award it all or not. So it doesn't necessarily like carry over per se.
Back to use for some different purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not specifically allocated for. one.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's more like a general fund for it, and then this is how much we got it, okay?
Yeah. So, and then I also just wanted to share, related to the budget, that the community development budget includes a proposal to add an additional position, which would be an economic development specialist. So I'm hoping that council approves the budget as presented to them. And it would allow us an opportunity to hire somebody who could really focus on business outreach and recruitment, helping to fill these vacant spaces.
Doesn't Troutdale has a position for that, I think, doesn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, that's Marley.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be really exciting. I think both an opportunity to do more relationship building with existing businesses in Fairview, help get the word out about businesses, work on kind of advancing the Halsey corridor vision. working on refining the incentive programs, like the grants. And then I think, one of the things that I think the council's really interested in, I would want them to focus on is business recruitment and doing more relationship building with landlords and brokers for those spaces.
Do you think you have somebody in-house or are you gonna have to, if they approve it, we could have to go out?
We would hire something
I
from
mean,
outside.
it was lucky that Marty already knew the scoop.
Right, yeah, we don't have a lot of extra people around, so, yeah, we would hire somebody new. Yeah. Mhm.
Not add on to somebody else's
Yeah,
already full plate.
yeah, exactly. Mhm. Yeah. So, and the budget committee had their first meeting this Monday. And then and that was kind of an overview of the budget and a little training on how budgets work. They received the budget at the end of that meeting to review. And then this coming Monday, the 12th, is another budget committee meeting where there will be additional presentations about the proposed budget and an opportunity for questions and discussion.
That's next Monday.
Yes, that's next Monday at 6 o'clock. So
Here
here at City Hall, yes. And I believe that, let's just look at the city website for a moment here. Because the budget should be posted. I think down at the bottom here. Let's see. Let's see. So here's the Urban Renewal Agency proposed budget. And this was they're kind of separately announced. So they technically have to meet 2 times, once as the Urban Renewal Agency and once as the city council for reviewing that budget. So yes, so both of them are available online if you're interested in taking a look at those.
Okay.
And one of the things that we did with the budget has a little bit of a different format this year. And each of the departments or the funds has a little summary. So there's a budget message, and then there's an organization chart, and then it kind of gets into these different funds. I was just gonna give an example here. Of community development. HR and city recorder, IT. So like community development department, it talks about what happened in the last fiscal year. And then some changes that are proposed for this fiscal year, which includes that economic development specialist. And also our code enforcement officer who currently works half-time would become full-time starting the beginning of July. So that would also be of great help because there's a lot to work on, and it's kind of hard to get it all done with 20 hours a week.
That's gonna stop by the day. Give them some. We couldn't afford some officers something to check out.
Oh.
I didn't get here in time.
Oh, okay.
So I will do that tomorrow.
Okay, yeah.
What's the process? Who do I see? Is it Deborah or?
It's John Berlin upstairs.
John, is he here all the time? I don't know if he's.
He works until noon,
Until.
8 to 12. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stop by.
Yeah, and sometimes he's out in the field, but he's the person that you'd want to talk with.
So in the absence of him being here in person, I would just
Well, like if Anna's, tomorrow's not a good day, but for, I was gonna say, because I'm not, there's a couple other people who are not in tomorrow. But otherwise, you can always send an email.
Yeah,
Yep, so if you email, I'm gonna go to the code enforcement page here.
they'll take up any time on that.
Oh, I know, but I'm just like, I want to know actually if we have a general code enforcement page. And why am I not even seeing it on here? We should have that. Compliance. Well, you can call John, you just, or click here and it'll give you his phone number or his email. It's just gonna be berlinj@fairvieworegon.gov. Yeah. So,
I'll shoot them an email to.
okay, all right, sounds good. Okay, so yeah, those were kind of the main updates in terms of some good news on the budget for this coming year. The Halsey Street project is somewhat, I think it's still under discussion a little bit because we're trying to figure out some budgetary things. But next on the list to do is to start working on the actual restriping design. The thing that's still kind of up in the air is funding for doing the pavement overlay and actually doing the paint. And as I understand, there was a little bit of discussion at the council meeting last night, which I was hoping that Councilor Todd could kind of update this group on. The county still does not have any timeline for when they're gonna be able to do the work. If the legislature adopts a transportation funding package that increases the county's funds, you know, over the next couple of years for maintenance projects, then maybe they would have some additional funds to work on it. But as I understand, council indicated last night that if there's no foreseeable future with the county being able to do that work, that they should think about contributing toward it.
I don't understand the paving.
Mhm.
That road's not that bad. There's a lot of roads around there
Yeah,
that are a lot worse than that road. So
yeah,
I don't know why we're spending money paving that when our objective
Mhm.
is economic development. And for a $25,000 or $50,000 bill,
Mhm.
we can accomplish our goal of filling up our retail spaces.
well, my understanding from, you know, the county road folks is that if we're gonna restripe it, you need to put something down, otherwise you're gonna have to like. And it's actually the pavement condition, maybe it doesn't seem like it's terrible, but from 213th to 223rd, the pavement condition index is really poor. So it's one of their top priority county roads to actually do like a pavement overlay preservation, just to like make sure that it doesn't get any worse and start addressing some of the cracks.
And
So,
I'm okay with that, but I mean, I'm telling you, you go to the 207th and go over that bridge and
Right.
and that's still a county road.
that is actually ODOT's right of way.
Okay.
Yeah, which I know, there's some serious
I mean,
problems there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, just because they need kind of the fresh slate for doing the painting on, they need to do that overlay. The advantage would be that, you know, they would also maybe be able to update some other things at the same time more easily, like crosswalks and ADA ramps.
Yeah, but don't you think the reality is that's a 2 to 3 year conversation? And what I'm saying is, if we would not just had a bid on, I watched them paint over white stripes before, and put new stripes on roads
Mhm.
without repaving. I mean, I'm being argumentative here,
Mhm,
but at the point of a $25,000 or $50,000 bill,
mhm.
3 years from now, if they choose to repave, great. In the meantime, we fill up all our retail spaces.
If they could just grind out the current paint
Or just
or
seal coat
pressure
over the top of it.
or
Just
whatever.
don't even grind it, seal coat over the top of it.
Mhm. Yeah, I could follow up with the roads folks and ask about that.
I mean, we've all seen roads where they change the direction
Mhm,
and they'll go seal coat over the top of the stripe and so be it.
mhm.
So
I
I'm
mean,
just saying,
I've also seen roads where, the previous striping is not completely
gone.
gone.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
because I always worry about the, self-driving cars.
Oh, sure.
Getting confused, so,
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just really pushing on this because I think that this could be the biggest thing that EDAC could ever achieve. If we could get,
It's not the biggest, but it's certainly a baby step, all right?
yeah, it would be something that'd make our last
Yeah.
couple of years
Yeah.
worthwhile of pushing. And, I talked to our county commissioner. He's willing to come down and have lunch. I don't know how much pull or whatever they have, but it seems like everybody's interested in this idea.
Yeah. Mhm.
It just seemed like if we could get the power players in the room and have this discussion, is it a 25, is it a $50,000 bill? Is it 300,000?
Mhm.
You know,
Right. And the Urban Renewal Agency does have some money allocated for Halsey still this next year. There's like $1 million earmarked that could be spent on it. That's sort of been held over from, a budget that was put together a while ago. So that's something that could potentially be tapped into.
And I think that there'll be pushback from the community.
Mhm.
But when I'm talking to people and I'm saying, look out there on Halsey Street.
Mhm.
85% of those people aren't coming to anywhere between 207th and 223rd. They're shooting through here. So if we change this to the pro district and do parking and open up our retail, it's certainly gonna change our city, I agree. And 10 years ago, I would have been against this. But now that we've built up this almost what we call a
Additional space,
mandatory
yeah.
commercial space,
Mhm.
why not help people fill it?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I know there'd be pushback, but if the average person were to sit down
Yeah.
and say, okay, hey, the goal here is not to have a commuter go through Fairview. It's to have us come to go to our community and hit your coffee shop or hit whatever you want to hit.
To the retail spaces, but.
Yeah. So also I'd invite you all, if you're interested, on Monday at noon, there's Multnomah County's doing a press event. It's for the 3 cities, actually the 4 cities, at Donald Robertson Park at noon in Wood Village, there next to their city hall, to talk about the need for transportation funding. So the mayors of Fairview, Wood Village, Troutdale, and Gresham, and our Multnomah County Commissioner are all speaking.
And where is this? Where's the Donald Robinson?
Donald Robinson Park. It's the park that's next door to Wood Village City Hall.
Just between Wood
On
Village.
Halsey Street.
Park right there.
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay. I didn't realize that was City Hall.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that new
City
building.
buildings back in
Okay.
there, but yeah, I
Okay.
never really knew where they moved to after they were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Found that out by accident myself.
Okay, so that's the May 12th.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of, it's
Okay,
in the
so-
middle of the day, but yeah.
But before we get off this subject, is there anything we can do, I can do, or anything to help push this street painting project?
I think that once the council has their budget adopted, and then we know, there's this funding available, and we might have a better sense in a few weeks in terms of whether anything's gonna change on the county getting more funds for their piece. But we do need to have a follow-up discussion with the council that was kind of waiting for us to get through the budget process to pick back up and talk about Halsey, because the last time they spoke about it, they were asking the question of whether if the city took on the work, for example, if we did the paving to do the striping, could the county pay us back later? I did ask the county, they said, no, we can't really do that. So there's a follow-up that's needed with the council to say, okay, what are the next steps that you want to take? So we need to get a work session on the schedule, for some time
Who would be the
This
one? that would
summer.
be- Who would be the, for me, I would look at it this way, I'd say, what's the budget to do it?
Mhm.
So if I'm up on the council, I don't
Yeah,
know if I
and-
want to pass an open budget,
Right,
but if I were to go up to the pulpit and say, hey, for $52,537,
Mhm.
we can seal coat and do this.
Mhm.
So who would it be,
well, we do have.
who would get that pricing?
Yeah, it would be, so Multnomah County gave us pricing for doing the full thing, doing the overlay and doing the
Mhm.
restriping, and I think it included ADA, the ADA ramps that need to get updated in that area and doing a new mid-block crossing.
So that is in fact itemized,
Mhm.
and we can just pull out the painting.
Mhm.
And then possibly
Yeah.
put some more in there for seal coating and striping or something,
Yeah,
just to give us an idea. I mean, if it's $300,000, it's one thing. If it's $50,000 or $60,000, I think it's,
Changes the conversation of potential acceptance of.
it is, yeah, I mean, it is not going to be inexpensive still. I can share the numbers that I have and I will contact the Multnomah County Transportation Roads Division to ask about, just, painting over or
Sure.
sealing over the current striping.
Mhm.
I think the whole plan was really, and I sat in on the council work session.
Mhm, yes.
They had a discussion on it.
Yeah.
I recall it's like, I don't remember the number, it seemed like it was $1.6 million or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
To do what we were suggesting,
Mhm.
which included bicycle lanes and
All of the, like, the.
yeah. And that was the comment councilors and the mayor had, is like, well, we have the money and we did that, considering it's a county road that we get reimbursed for. And then there's the $64,000 question. I think if you know, they said they weren't going to.
Mhm.
Sounds unreasonable for the county, but anyway.
Mhm.
But, this is looking like it's, maybe 1, 2, 3 years out before anything's gonna happen on it. When,
Need something.
Yeah.
we're looking at stripes on the road.
Right, and we
Yeah,
were
so-
hoping that we could get it queued up to do it, not this summer, but next summer was the.
So like 2026 is what
Right.
we're talking.
Mhm.
yeah, because you think if we're budgeting 200,000 to 300,000 in grant money to get people here,
Mhm.
if all of a sudden this is here and we're a growing enterprise, we don't need to spend that money anymore because people are gonna wanna come.
Yeah,
So basically, the grant money we're gonna spend, we could spend on the striping and then somebody will rent out Northbrook anyway.
and, yeah, mhm.
This,
So-
this meeting that is going to be at Wood Village, is it at their city hall? Would you share that information with us in an email or something?
Mhm.
Because I would like to go to that.
Yeah,
Maybe it's giving me a lot better perspective of what really is all involved.
yes,
Why is it, the lack of knowledge on it is really kind of encumbering our ability to make, sound recommendations.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but it sounds like something that would be interesting.
Noon on
to
Monday,
Mhm.
yeah, I've got a contractor I have to meet with on Monday, but I think I might be able to, he should be done by then. But I'd like to be there.
yeah, I will forward you the press release.
Oh, I'm gonna be out of town until Wednesday, so you'll have to do our pitching for us.
Report back to us.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to make it. So I gotta find out from my contractor when he plans on showing.
Yeah, that's a day I'm
And
supposed to.
and my
work from
fear is,
downtown.
the meeting that they'll have, that's a big money meeting. Because there's a lot going on
Yeah.
between these cities on the road. Where ours comes directly back just to Fairview and just this restriping.
Yeah. But it might help give a bigger picture
Sure.
type thing and go like, what's it gonna be able to take to carve out the part that we need to have done that we think might bring more immediate gain?
Results.
See what happens.
So, and I had heard that there was going to be on Monday a hearing in Salem related to the transportation package, but I have not gotten any more information. So this was sort of, intended to just raise awareness and around the same time that is being considered. So,
Doesn't surprise me they're gonna be meeting on something about the roads in Salem because they are pretty poor shape, that's for sure.
Oh.
Yeah,
And I was driving down, I can't remember if it was Burnside or Division, and it's terrible too.
it doesn't, any place you go that you
yeah,
dodge a hole.
yep, absolutely.
As long as we're on this subject, just change it slightly. Whatever's happening with the possibility of the sidewalk going down 223rd?
So summer of 2026, I believe they are gonna be constructing that.
Really?
Yeah.
Next year?
Yes, it's a Safe Routes to School funded project that Multnomah County is managing. So they've been working on finalizing the design and the county did a presentation to the council that same night, right?
Yeah.
And the council was excited about it. They'll be putting in bike lanes and sidewalks to basically fill the walk gap on the west side of 223rd from where it ends now, which is just past
From Halsey Crossing.
Halsey Crossing right there. That's on the corner of 223rd and Halsey up to Bridge Street.
And we don't need to talk about this, but it's gonna be hard to circumvent where that one building protrudes out into that right away. Seemed like there was a building that
There's a house that's.
has a house that's, but I'm sure somebody's figured it out.
I think they're able to, I think they're able to still get it in there.
Yeah.
They designed around that. And then there's the little historic Fairview Jail right at Bridge, and there's already a sidewalk that goes kind of through the park behind it. So it'll connect up and use that sidewalk, but it's gonna reconfigure that connection to 223rd a little bit.
Speaking of, when it rains, that gets really slick.
That sidewalk?
Not the
Oh.
sidewalk, but the within like where the jail is, that little
Oh.
jail, like the what is it, the stamped concrete
Oh,
that's in there, it can get really slick. Cause my husband and I walk, kind of the neighborhoods and stuff, but we
Yeah.
walk through there and you have to be careful. So just from a potential like slip and fall,
okay.
just as an FYI.
Like the surfacing just gets slick?
Yeah,
Well, I guess something maybe like a moss buildup in the porch.
something,
Like right outside the jail?
Well, it's all of the stamped concrete.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's something in the stamped concrete.
There
that
is,
has
it's got
Yeah.
kind of like a glazing compound on
Okay.
there, it does get like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you mentioned the little jail, that was, that wasn't exactly on topic.
No, that's okay.
But, so the 223rd sidewalk, and apologies, I'm gonna tag on to
Yeah,
Dean since we have 50 minutes. The 223rd by the railroad crossing was kind of where my mind went when you mentioned 223rd.
Yes.
Did
So-
anything happen with that?
Nothing yet. It's
Okay.
kind of back
Okay.
in the court of the railroad. It has made progress, but it might take another 6 months for the railroad to complete their next step. But there is funding earmarked in the urban renewal budget for that project as well.
It's really contingent upon Union Pacific putting in another rail line, that's it, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the idea would be, I'm not sure when that's gonna happen, honestly. But if we just, I think we're like, let's just get it put in as soon as we can. And then if they,
Yes.
in the near future or whenever they add that second rail, if they reconfigure things, then they're gonna have to rebuild it to keep that path underneath. Yeah. So,
Okay, all right.
Does-
so fingers crossed, it would be really great.
Yes, thank you.
does the sidewalk already go from the new public works building to that corner? Cause you're saying if the sidewalk is gonna go from Halsey Crossing to the grade school, I'm assuming that probably already goes from the new public works building.
You know, we've been doing a lot of.
It seems like.
Yeah, yeah,
Makes sense to me.
I'm pretty sure there's. Cause the crosswalk starts.
So here's
Yeah,
the
there-
public
yeah.
workshop.
So it goes down.
Yeah, so you're good.
Down to Sandy.
Mhm.
You're
just
all the way
north
to the
of
corner.
Sandy.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but it's just, and then it goes up a little ways past the little jail,
Mhm.
but not
It
very
kind of
far.
stops, you know, that's.
Cause
Right.
when we cross from Bridge, it goes both ways. Yeah.
where it is.
Oh, no, it does
Right
start.
after.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying that if
Just
that's not
up
gonna
until-
continue, they'll go around the other side.
Yeah, so it's not gonna go right through here. I think it got a little bit complicated due to the width, and then there's all these power poles right here.
Mhm.
So since there's already an existing one, but I think what we talked about was kind of changing how it connects so that you're not coming down here, there's the sidewalk ends, and then you have to kind of like loop around. I don't remember what the final design was gonna look like, but I think it was gonna maybe just be a little bit of a better connection. And then it'll pick up. So, yeah, it'll
Yeah,
pick
'cause
up
that-
here.
That little sidewalk goes through the little park by the little jail.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is slated for construction in 26?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, so it'll be this whole stretch here then.
That'll be nice for all the people that.
Mhm.
Oh, this is what you're talking about though.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, it does get, it's a good question.
But you know, hey, be creative at one spot, but if you get 98% fixed.
Right, yeah,
At least need to do something about there, the new apartments are going down there north of Sandy, next to the boat.
yes. Yes, that is the other area that really needs the link on the boatyard frontage to be close, and we need sidewalk right there. Right now, the Safer Sandy project, the Sandy Boulevard Transportation Planning Project is underway. And we're gonna be like doing outreach. There's actually a survey open right now. Oh, look, you got the
Got
survey.
that in the mail today.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, take the survey, and once the design is done, I see that, that's really small,
Yeah. Sorry.
I think. Do you think so too?
Yeah, I was, you know, I got my mail out today, I'm going like, oh, what's this little piece of junk mail? I'm going like, oh, hold the phone, that's not junk mail.
That's good, I feel like it should have been like this.
Yeah,
Good to know, thank you.
good, you know.
Ooh, so once that design is done, the county's gonna move into construction for the section that's between 200 and First, and you know where like the Portland Fairview RV Park is? Kind of like the east end of that property, right where it meets Fairview Terrace, that street section will be constructed. So we'll be looking to see if at the same time we could construct the piece around the boatyard to close the gap.
That boatyard thing, that's not part of our meeting, but that's so sad that didn't get incorporated
In the next.
into that other thing. Because now you have a footprint of a piece of property.
Mhm.
And by the time you get your ingress, egress, to the footprint of the building,
Mhm.
put some parking. You know, that's just
Right,
unfortunate that it just didn't tie together.
yeah, I agree. Yeah. That apartment complex is nearing completion.
Yeah,
That's
it's
looking
shaping up
beautiful.
nicely.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely by mid-July, it should be completely done.
Yeah, the street frontage on Sandy, I think was incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I was
That's
curious,
improved.
I'm always curious what, what the street frontage is gonna look like, but
Yeah,
yeah.
for what those guys
seems
about
to
to
be
go
nice,
through.
yeah.
How long has that project been going?
Years.
they got land use approval in 2018, like, and yeah, I think before you did. Yeah, so lots of starts and stops,
Well,
but this
good.
contractor has been working hard to get it done.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, so,
That brings us to work plan or
plan. Yeah, so this is, I have kind of limited information in terms of what was talked about at the council. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items, I think that were maybe proposed for the work plan this coming year. Most of them were holdovers from this last year. So your work plan for last year had Heart of Fairview, incentive program revisions, small business resource guide, East County economic development strategy, which I'm not really sure how much there is to do on that this year for EDAC really. And the small business resource guide is completed. And then Counselor Todd added Main Streets on Halsey and local business roundtable.
Which is
Right.
pretty much what we had suggested
Yeah,
last year for being included.
yeah. Yeah, so I think that the small business resource guide can come off.
Yeah.
The East County Economic Development Strategy, I feel like is now kind of in the implementation phase. That we are having the steering committee for that. All the partner agencies are meeting on a quarterly basis. And just sort of sharing resources and talking about ideas. There are projects identified to kind of focus on for the time being. One of them is the property that's near the corner of Gleason and 223rd, vacant lot that the Port of Portland owns. They call it Lot 11. So it's part of that big piece of property, the Gresham Vista Business Park that's been developed.
South side?
It's on the south side of Gleason, yes.
So like right across from like.
So.
Right across-
Southeast.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they are going to be moving forward to this, hopefully this fall, start to solicit a developer for that property. So it's near Fairview, which is, I mean, it would be great to have some additional development and energy there. And then other projects are, there's one in Gresham, which is the Vance Park project. There's the county-owned park and adjacent property that's down off of like 190th between Division and Stark. And the county has been going through a bunch of planning around that. So that's another one. And then the other one is around Mount Hood Community College. So I think that the Port of Portland property near Fairview is the one that's kind of most interest for now, but you know, it's just continuing to kind of collaborate and share information. But I don't know that it's really an EDAC project necessarily for next year, given that there wasn't a Fairview site that was kind of selected for this first round of effort. Yeah, so I feel like that could come off, and then we'd have Heart of Fairview, incentive program revisions, Main Streets on Halsey, and local business roundtable. And just so you know, on Heart of Fairview, the status right now is the council is going to be considering another extension of the memorandum of understanding at their meeting on May 21st. The developer is still very much on board, but given the market right now, they're just not ready to jump into starting to develop the site. And the council feels like they are also in a position where there's been you know, a lot of housekeeping needed on the city budget. The Urban Renewal Agency was planning to, you know, give incentives to the Heart of Fairview project. Some of that we need to kind of still figure out and work on because a lot of the Urban Renewal Agency funding is dependent upon taking out bonds. But because of the financial situation that the city has right now and not having audits completed for several years, we lost our bond rating. And so it's gonna be a little while before we're able to get that back. To be able to finance additional projects. So I think given all those things, the city council said, yes, that's fine. Let's like extend our agreement we have with them for another year, a little bit more. That'll allow the city also some time to both work on our processes and then partner with them to make sure that our development code is kind of ready for their land use application and continuing to kind of work on the concept for their development.
Is there the possibility of when they did that extension?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the legal term I'm looking for, but I'm looking along the lines of first right of refusal, but if somebody else will look, another big project developer looked at it, if they couldn't come in and say, hey, I want to take the project, rather than having the city tie up for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it would maybe be more along the lines of could the city terminate the agreement?
Yeah, if there was a more favorable agreement or a more concrete agreement that came down, just like any of us, if we had something, we'd want to have the option. That if somebody came in and made it good.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess the situation is that, yeah, I guess that's a good question. Is there, what are the clauses in the MOU if, the parties decided to, go in a different direction, right?
Yeah.
And then the city would kind of need to go back to square one with deciding how they would want to, enter into, do another RFQ, enter into another agreement with another developer and kind of start the process over again.
Yeah, and I don't see that happen. I'm just throwing it out there. All of a sudden, somebody showed up and said, hey, I want to take that guy's position. Here's my money. And give me 60 days to flesh out if we agree or disagree with what the city wants us to do. Just so we're not totally tied up.
Yeah.
How many apartments is in that unit down in Sandy? They just changed that, 200. So basically in the last 5 years, we put 500 doors into just our neighborhood at a minimum. Which is pretty good. So now.
And they all seem to be filling up.
They're doing okay. Clayton's at about 70 and he's got 86.
Oh.
Garth has only got 2 or 3 vacancies. And then Parker's doing okay. I've got 2 vacancies. I haven't heard how the guy down in Sandy's doing, but so it'll be interesting. Everybody vying to fill up.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think the nice thing about this area, I mean, granted, not a lot of people necessarily have to work in downtown, but I feel like this is a really nice area for being able to commute into downtown.
Yeah.
If you have to.
Right.
And so those apartment buildings are really nice. I mean, I like where I'm located and just the ease of access. And so I would imagine that it makes it attractive for people because you don't have to commute all the way from like Division or Start.
Right. You're right.
Out
The
to-
freeway.
I mean, like you're right there. You can just
Yes.
go in. I don't know if that's necessarily an incentive if they don't want to go into the office, but.
I come from an area that my daily commute was 200 miles to get to work.
Yeah.
So when I look at that, the availability of reasonable housing so close to an infrastructure that can get you only 15 to 20 miles from downtown Portland, I'm going like, this place is golden.
Yeah.
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 Well, food for thought is what's very interesting to me is we put in a new camera system. So that it identifies it, start walking through, say, start walking through 12 times that day. And it's amazing to me, it'll actually identify pets. How many people in these communities, and I like the fact that the apartment owners are being pet friendly.
Yeah.
Because it actually kind of makes it fun to see people walking their dog or their pet up and down the street.
Right. It gets people out walking around.
Make it
Yes.
a community, which brings me back to the slow our traffic down and turn it into a community.
Well, we're on board on that.
Yes.
See how we-
I know you guys,
We're-
I don't really care about it.
No, we're, yeah, I'll be interested to see what we could do. steps on that.
So.
Yes, and I think what I kind of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. Okay.
I was just gonna say, when I communicated with Counselor Todd about the work plan, you know, for Main Streets on Halsey, I kind of said EDAC, couple of roles. One would be to give your feedback to the council, you know, directly, when they're meeting to talk about the Halsey corridor project. Continue to help do outreach to the property owners and the businesses as we move along, so that as we reach the next step and the council wants to hear more about, you know, what the businesses think. That's helpful, like Dean, when you talked to the people who own businesses, you know, right around your property.
I think that's a great idea to give us a little bit of a voice to go, because we get the opportunity to beat it up a little bit. When they're up on the pulpit, they've got to do the Johnson Rule of Order and probably not want to discuss all the little details, but we're fortunate to discuss all the details.
Yeah. And then same thing, you know, one of the next things, the planning commission is gonna look at, they need to actually adopt that Main Streets plan and update our transportation system plan. So, you know, EDAC can certainly provide support when that goes to the planning commission and the city council for a public hearing.
Can I ask this question? If we were pitching the planning commission right now on what our dream that Fairview will look like in 20 years from now, do we think that we're all I'm kind of on the same page of restripe the road and leave it like that, and not of the, you know, all the street designs that we've seen with the bike trails, boom. I don't think that you're ever gonna have enough continuity between 223rd and 207th to mandate for somebody that buys one of these houses out here to put a coffee shop in, to change and do the bike lane and do all that. You guys understand my question?
Yeah, so, but how far through Fairview? Like, will it make it more accessible just within Fairview?
My point being is
Like, you're
all
not necessarily, like, understanding it's not necessarily gonna be picked up by Wood Village and kind of all the way down Halsey. But will it open it up kind of just to be able to, you know, bike around Fairview? So like to connect, like to cover gaps and stuff like that. Not saying it, you know.
I think I'm specifically saying that if we restripe the road to a thing that works, I can't see doing a half street or a street improvement in front of one piece of property.
And I think you're right, Dean. I think that the way you'd have to construct those improvements, it doesn't make sense to do it on a piece by piece basis. It would need to come from a big capital funding project.
And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so this committee's on the same page as if we're talking to planning commission. I'm not an advocate of, some of those plans we saw are great, but I'm not an advocate of voting on that to make one property owner do it when it will never be continued in our lifetime.
Right. And I think that's correct, where I think we're Fairview, and I think all the cities and the county agree that that project, we're not gonna ask individual property owners to implement that cross section, to build that out on like a single property basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I can see it once we get down to our minimums and municipalities that are not us, where there's no sidewalks and stuff yet. But from Target to the gas station, it'd be hard pressed to
Right,
pick and choose where to put a bike sidewalk in.
right. And in front of McMenamins, where you have a single property owner, and you have continuity, it would be easier to implement something, than Fairview, where you have many.
Especially since it's not developed to begin with.
Right, yes, yes. And Gresham, they submitted a request for some funding through the regional flexible funds process. So Metro goes through a process to pick projects to fund through our like federal funding allocation. And they were proposing the same kind of thing where the bike lane is up next to the sidewalk, just basically at 201st and Halsey. So they would do from 201st down to, forget, 190th or something, 192nd.
Yeah, I think.
We could
that-
all eventually do it together, but could extend even to the west. But that's long term. It's gonna be a lot of years before I really foresee that happening. So that makes the striping more important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I swear to God, we striped that could last for 20 years as our little city grew up.
Mhm.
The achievable goals that we were looking at when we
Right.
proposed that last year, and doing what we need to do now in order to be able to accommodate some parking.
For the business.
If the city were to spend any money on business development, don't we agree that's it? That's gotta be the biggest pusher, driver to our economic vitality in.
I feel like the biggest bang for the buck at this point, right? Like, I mean, you know, if there was federal funding coming down for a bigger project to implement some of the other things that we've been talking about
Mhm.
forever, sure, like, yeah, we'll do that. But, you know, from a biggest bang for the buck in the short term.
I mean, I'd rather spend the money on getting the roundabout in and the parking lot. But this is
But those
low
are
hanging
big,
fruit.
yeah.
This is,
Yeah, this is easier,
Right.
easier achievement.
It's
Yeah.
achievable. Those federal dollars aren't gonna be coming anytime soon.
Yes, exactly.
One question on the heart of Halsey thing, the existing deal, I understand they're gonna extend the MOU. In the last conversation, one of the conversations they had previously is the developer was actually kind of holding back to kind of look at if they wanted to change how they were gonna do that. One of the things was that they would look at that modular component type
Yes.
thing like they did in Bend or Redmond or whatever. it was. What's the outcome of that? Is there any feedback?
Yeah, good question. So right now, I think they are thinking that they would not do the modular construction in Fairview. They've kind of moved away from that for now. I mean, I think it was an interesting test case, and I think they were hoping that it would produce like a more affordable product. But just due to, I think, a lot of different factors, they were finding that it wasn't necessarily the type of thing that they were gonna like build on a widespread basis. So it sounds like they're moving back to doing more of a traditional construction type in Fairview. Yeah, I mean, it was very cool, I will say, and it was really
It's
interesting to
been
see
done a lot
that.
of other places. and,
Yeah.
I think it can expedite the project and.
Right,
Less expensive, but it
yes.
didn't work out for them, or was it in Bend?
Yeah, in Bend, yeah. So I think that the product ended up being really nice, but the logistics around it were challenging on that particular project because the factory was so far away was one thing. And they were planning to start up a similar thing in Portland, but they, I think, have ended up like selling that project to somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
It turned out to be cost effective.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so I guess just the other thing in terms of the work plan
Yeah.
that was on here still was
Yep.
the incentive program revisions. So the city council met and had a kind of a final work session to provide feedback on the property tax exemption program. So that is moving ahead. There are a couple of little things to just finalize for that before the council has a hearing to replace the vertical housing, the other tax exemption program with this multiple unit property tax exemption program. And that's the program that EDEC has provided some feedback on, and it would, basically keep a property tax exemption program in Fairview, but under more flexible guidelines. So that's moving ahead, and then I think that I think the next one to still look at would be, I know that the council still wants to talk about the system development charge waiver. And thinking about how they want to apply that. There's still a question for consideration about allowing a property owner to receive multiple incentives, so getting a system development charge waiver, for example, and the property tax exemption, and how that would work. And
And I was always okay, I don't know, but I was always okay with one or the other.
yeah, which is what apply, that's
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 currently how it works.
currently how it
Yeah.
works, yeah. So I
You
think.
got a feel for which way they're feeling, but to me.
I think they're feeling the same, but they haven't really had a deep dive discussion in terms of the system development charge waiver. Because how it's been set up right now is it's just a full waiver. And they haven't talked about different ways in which the city could implement it. For example, maybe it's just a portion of your system development charges, get waived if you kind of keep adding on more community benefits to your project.
Yeah, but for me to weigh in, I think that if you do the sewer and the water, I think those are the only ones I got the benefit of. You're still paying the
Parks.
park and you're still paying the school system. You still pay the school system quite a bit of money,
Oh, stormwater.
Yeah,
It
and
still
that's right.
would be waived, yeah.
so. But that's for them to beat up.
Yeah, so I think, so that's another one, and then the grant program, I know that EDAC kind of started working on that. And some potential
business
provisions, the
grant?
business, right? And then staff kind of got redirected to work on the tax exemption program. But I think that it would be a good time to, look at that again. The discussion that EDAC had before was again, kind of like narrowing in a little bit on both the criteria and the location.
Let's talk about that for 2 seconds. So on the grant program, Stephen, I know that another developer that I've worked with, the grant shouldn't be tied to the landlord. It should be tied to the business person. That's the way it ended up, right? Because at first it was kind of confusing because all of a sudden you're tying the hands of the landlord to it. So I just want to make sure that that's still the way it's working.
So, yeah, right. Well, previously there was a provision in the grant program where the property owner could get liened if the grantee, if the business didn't fulfill their obligations and they had to pay the grant back. And we took that out of the program. So that was, I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify that I think that's the way it should be the responsibility that the guy came in to apply for the grant.
Right.
It's responsible.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's really, intended to help kind
For
of
the business.
close the gap between the money that the business owner has to contribute and the money that the landlord has to contribute. Because, a lot of these small businesses, if we're trying to attract small business to these spaces, they have, make it more attractive. Like, why come to Fairview?
And there's a percentage or something, so the business owner and or the landlord still puts in the majority of the money. So everybody knows, it's not as though that they get to come and get all the money
Right.
and don't have any stake in the game.
Yeah, and that's one thing the grant is that I think we talked about clarifying in the grant program parameters, because right now it just says generally you can get 65,000 for tenant improvements up to 100,000, but the program doesn't explicitly say that the grant will cover X% of the overall cost, not to exceed
Sure.
50% or whatever, or explicitly require the business and the property owner to also contribute.
But I'm sure before you guys make a decision, they have to present an overall budget probably.
They do,
Yeah,
but I think that, I think it would be helpful to clarify that, to give better expectations to the business in terms of, what the council is going to award. Because the council has awarded projects before where it was a very high the overall project cost was being funded like at a very high percentage by the grant. So, So I think that would be something that EDAC could take up again, and to just make it a little bit, again, more user-friendly than the document that we have right now.
Kind of like the small business guide.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
All right.
Going back, how do we facilitate moving forward on the, what was say, getting other businesses involved in a coffee or something like that?
I think that's part of the work plan, right? The-
Yeah, that got added. Mm-hmm.
That Counselor Todd added.
So,
So we'll be able to,
Do we have any ideas on what we would do?
yeah, I think we talked about, did we talk about monthly? Like kind of like setting an established time.
I mean, for example, I think we could say, okay, so-and-so day, so the staff isn't overwhelmed. We say so-and-so day, we can all meet down at the Fork in that big room. And any business person that wanted to come and weigh in, come in. It's not, because that's not a matter of where you're meeting or people can't meet.
oh, like a quorum or something.
Yeah, forum, right? I mean, we're just having a meet and greet of business people.
Right, you're not doing any business.
Yeah.
Other than just networking, getting business people to know the other business people.
Or, so I guess my question would be, and I know we're coming up on time, but would it need to be at City Hall? Could it be out in the community? Should it like move to different local businesses if we're looking to, kind of get local business owners to, kind of know one another, so.
Yeah,
know.
I think it's a great idea to have it out in the community to support businesses.
Yeah, so for example, you could do one at the Fork, you could do one at Stomping Grounds, moving around to places, because I don't see it getting too busy. I
Right.
see 10 or 15 people showing up.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking this might be something, I think, one of the reasons it didn't get added last year was just a staff capacity issue. But if we get our economic development specialist on board, this would be something that they can help work on.
Yeah. And then, publicize it in the same little newsletter thingy.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and the newsletter, just so you know, is going to be going to a quarterly issue, starting in July. So, I don't know that much about format update. I think it's gonna be like a little bit longer and less frequent.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. All right.
So there'll probably be an announcement in
Sure.
the upcoming Fairview Point.
Cool. All right, well, speaking of announcements, committee member updates and announcements. Is that an intentionally new? Or is that just
I think that's been on here, but, yeah, nothing, there's no, I don't have any.
I mean, is there
particular
any,
announcement.
yeah, exactly, I know it's been on there. I was
Oh.
like, is there anything specific?
Well, I
Yeah.
have two people. Let's talk members. Do we have people that are so far past due that they should be warned that they might be off the committee? I mean, I'm not hard timing everybody here, but just to keep our committee vibrant. Because I really think I want to invite Doug Wood from Carlinos.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because he's been part of the community since 25 years.
Uh-huh. And I sent an application to somebody else
To
too.
Kimberly, okay?
Yeah, and I don't remember who she is. What,
Kimberly,
does she own the salon?
Canning Salon.
Yeah, okay. Mhm. So we do have two vacancies currently, and there's no applications, no applicants, I should say. And then we do have another member that has missed, if you miss 3 meetings in a row, the code says that then you're off the committee unless the committee asks council to make an exception and that individual wants to get an exception to stay on. So I haven't had that communication yet, but we may have 4
So how do we
vacancies.
proceed on that? Once you find out somebody's missed 3 meetings,
Mhm.
do you call them? Does one of us board members call them and say, hey, do you still want to be part of the committee?
Yeah, I reach out to them
Okay.
and let them know.
Let's see if they, yeah,
Yeah. Mhm. And let them know this is the rule and this is the process and
okay.
yeah. Mhm.
I mean, probably be beneficial to try to solicit more people to get in who are not familiar with the business and not unlike myself, you know. Getting citizens involved is problematic to begin.
Yeah.
And part of it is not having a communication mechanism that gets that level of outreach. And I think a lot of people, when they get their water bill, they look at this and they're like, oh, look, I got a coupon, I can go down to, Allwoods, this is a great thing, but they're not paying attention to the big picture. It is smaller, so if we're gonna come out with a quarterly communication, it's gonna be something similar like the city of Gresham does, it's a multi-page little thing. It's, you probably don't know yet, but
Right.
I try to reach out to people in my circle of influence, which is pretty small. You really ought to find out more what's going on in the city, and this really doesn't take up a whole heck of a lot of your time.
Yeah.
Once a month.
Yeah.
Well, especially when we're doing the ad hoc thing or whatever, where we maybe every 2 months, so not that
Right.
overwhelming for people.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And if not as though we have anything not pressing, that we have to.
That we're in, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a nice to have
At the
to go
point.
to like council potentially as well, but I'm forgetting about it myself, so.
Yeah. I know. But yes, please,
Okay.
help get the word out. I sent Dean the application form or a link to it the other day, so I can do the same thing.
Do you know, so who owns Stopping Grounds?
Dave Gray's daughter, right? Don't know her name off the top of my head, the people that built the apartment behind the car wash, his daughter.
Chris
Oh.
and,
Does she work in
I've
there
mostly,
too?
I don't know. Chris Cutsall. And I've mostly communicated with him because they applied for this grant. And I'm not remembering, what his wife's name is.
Okay, okay, all right, okay. Cause I go, like, I think I mentioned, I go there every other Friday. So I'm just, every time I go in there, I'm like, okay, are any of these people, like, do they, like, how are they connected to like ownership or whatever?
Right, yeah. I see him in there for sure.
So
Well, the
that,
Thai food guys seem to be plugging away.
We went in there one night for dinner.
Yeah.
To check it out,
Uh-huh,
and enjoyed it.
yeah, were there, like, how did business seem? I've only been there at lunch.
So we went on an off hour as well, and so it wasn't necessarily super busy. I mean, there were people that came in while we were there. But yeah, because it was an off hour, it was,
I go at lunchtime 2 times and 45% full.
Oh.
Which is pretty impressive to me
Yeah,
yeah.
when you're that new.
yeah, that's good.
Mhm.
Yeah, great. Glad to hear it.
I'll just check it out again.
Well, and it's actually kind of fun because you have Lolo's there now, so you have 2 new comers to the program.
Yeah,
And when I was in Lolo's, like a couple weeks prior, it was pretty full when I was in there at dinner, so, yeah.
Good.
yeah. I was going to send out, this was just a random little thing, so I feel like we've been getting more inquiries from folks about like wanting to put signs out at their businesses, which is great, fully support that. Like Stomping Grounds has their little A-board sign. So we're gonna make a really simple form so that we can at least like just make sure that people know what the rules are. Technically, you're supposed to get this like A-board sign permit. We're deciding we're gonna like waive the fee and just make it like a really quick checklist sign off. So I was thinking to reach out to the businesses, just remind them kind of like what the sign rules are, that technically those banners aren't allowed, the like full wavy kinds. But that they could get an A-board sign and I think it's good advertising for people too.
Yeah, my opinion on that is until it becomes a real problem.
Yeah.
Let's worry about stuff that we can,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
you know. I mean, at this point in time, some of those banners you see them, but
Right, we're not enforcing
yeah, at
them.
some point in
Yeah,
time.
no,
let
It
the
would
board
more
act.
just be a it would more just be a reminder and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one next question.
Sure.
Again, before we adjourn.
Sure.
Does city manager George have plans for getting out? Reaching out to not only various different committees, but the public at large? I know he's still, digging in and making a lot of changes. So give any insights on how he's going to introduce himself to the city?
I don't know. I know, we've got our summer of, the city kind of has some summer events coming up. And so I don't know honestly what he has planned, if anything, at this time.
Well, we might be able to help do that is if we ever get one of our events going at the Fork, the guy might be able to come down and say hello.
Yeah.
Because I think he does have his hands full. But then
At
that
this
way,
particular point in time, yeah, he's making a lot of changes in this. He has a direction, certainly he is moving toward, and all evidence is that he's moving forward with that, but I think it's like a good opportunity to be able to have more people understand who we got. I talk to people in my neighborhood, and I'm going like, there's a lot of changes going on in the city. Are you even remotely aware? No. I'm like, well, once in a while, attend a city council meeting.
Hear what's
Kind of
happening.
look at the website, see what's going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting things that are gonna be happening here. You probably want to find out what they are, and you might want to give your input. But everybody is preoccupied with life,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
yeah, well, my hat's off to the guy. If he's getting things cleaned up to the point to get our bond rating back and all that other type of stuff for house cleaning.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that
And then-
for our city.
But I like the inviting him to,
I think, it's becoming familiar with the various different committees that you have in the commission. This would be beneficial, but I wouldn't press him to do that at this point in time because he's got a lot on his plate. A lot of changes are happening, and I find them very positive. So,
Yeah.
nothing else. I get a chance to say hi to him once in a while. But I really look forward to having an opportunity to sit down and talk with him.
Yeah. Well, I think he would absolutely welcome that. If any of you, he will sit down and talk to any committee member, community member. So I think, he'd certainly be open to that. If any of you wanted to just say, hey, can we just sit down and, chat
but
someday?
there's not necessarily cause I know, what was it, the prior had the thing at the standing.
Yes,
Thing at this, at
at the
something.
coffee shop, right, the drop-in thing, yeah. But I
Maybe
think
he'll eat.
they didn't, well, it seemed like there wasn't a lot of traffic in meeting with them, or it would
Okay.
be the same person just showed up every week.
Oh, okay. So it was not really getting much out of the show.
Well, it has to be equally beneficial for as it is for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking else
Yeah, beneficial and worthwhile.
Yeah,
So
they're
figuring,
productive. Let's use the word productive.
Yeah.
I kind of like to find out more of the insights and what direction he wants to go. It's one thing sitting on these committees and you'd be able to get feedback to the council. And we don't often get the feedback back, outside of staff's feedback, which is very important.
Yeah, but I think you'll find he's very transparent and
So when's he available?
you should just email him.
Mhm.
Recognize that, is very busy and has a high volume of email, but still, you could still do that. Okay, maybe after the budget's adopted.
Yeah, I've watched him, let him come up for air once or twice first. But,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
all right. Well, the next is the next meeting date.
Yeah, so what do
July
you all think about the next meeting date?
Well,
We should do that. I know we talked about meeting a little less frequently this last time. We had a 2-month gap.
Let me ask this before we decide that. if we get some applicants over the next 2 to 3 weeks,
Mhm.
how long does it take to get them placed on? I want to see if we get some applicants,
Right.
maybe get them placed on our committee before we have our, if we're gonna wait a month or two.
Well,
'Cause-
I found that the three of us have been pretty productive today.
No, but I'm saying at least if we skip 1 month,
Right,
would,
And I-
would that be enough time frame
Yeah.
to have 2 more members on?
Right. I mean, they could, depending upon how soon there were applicants, you know, the council could potentially appoint June.
Is it
4th.
is it just a one and done with the
June
council?
18th or July 2nd. It's just a one-time thing. And with the only group that, the only committee that council interviews for the position is the planning commission.
Okay.
For all of the others, it's just they submit the application, council votes on it at the meeting.
So what were those council dates?
Upcoming council dates. June 4th, June 18th, July 2nd, and July 16th.
so the 16th would be after.
Right.
If we were looking at July, but that means there's at least 3 starting in June,
Mhm.
so. I mean, I'm okay with July 10th.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you know, kind of,
I'm okay with like-
kind of skipping June,
Yeah.
having it on the schedule for July
Yeah.
and.
Which-
And then if there's nothing
Mhm.
productive to be discussed or updates.
Yeah.
You can always let us know if
Okay.
you wanna, if it makes more sense to bump it out a month or
Okay.
Yeah.
whatnot, but I'm okay with putting it on for July and then.
For June. June, maybe go till late July, and then if there's nothing happening in July, we kick it to August, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so put it on for July, sorry.
July 10th, next meeting.
Yeah.
So don't meet in June, meet in July though.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this-
Unless it becomes
Unless, yeah.
unnecessary. What's
Yeah.
that, Steve?
Well, I'd say, really, there's not much change in terms of our work plan. It looks
No.
pretty much the same as it did last year.
Right.
We're still plugging away at the same
Mhm.
things.
Right.
And, so, aside from being able to obtain more information from Sarah and or from Counselor Todd, that
Mhm.
we're, if I have the opportunity and it works out right Monday, I will go for this thing here and I'll make some notes. And those are the kind of things that I can kind of put together a little thing and get them to Sarah and she can shoot them off to you guys.
Okay.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right,
Okay.
okay, well, with that,
Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
second,
And I'll let you know what happens with the grants and the new businesses. After the 21st. When
okay,
urban renewal agency is scheduled to authorize those.